Welcome back to my YouTube channel, everyone, to this exciting deep dive where today we are going to explore one of the most fascinating discoveries in the world of numismatics, the 1996 D1 cent coin, a coin that has stunned collectors, historians, and casual observers alike by reaching a staggering estimated value of $78 million because of its incredible combination of errors, mistakes, and unique possibilities that make it so valuable and truly one of the most legendary coins in history. And as we journey into this story, we will uncover why such a small copper-plated zinc piece that once was meant for everyday transactions at face value of just a cent has now transformed into one of the most expensive treasures of modern coinage. So let's begin by imagining the context of 1996 when the Denver Mint struck millions of pennies, most of which went unnoticed and circulated normally. Yet somewhere in that vast production run, anomalies slipped through, mistakes that might appear insignificant at first glance, but when magnified through the lens of rarity, demand, and collector obsession, they create something extraordinary. And that is exactly what happened with this specific 1996 AD cent, as it embodies a perfect storm of minting errors, accidental variations, and preservation factors that elevate it from ordinary to a record-breaking marvel. And we need to think about the kind of errors that could lead to such astronomical valuation, starting with double die obverse errors, where the design elements such as the date, the Liberty inscription, or even Lincoln's profile appear double due to a misalignment during hubbing, and collectors go wild for these errors because they offer clear and dramatic visual uniqueness. So in this case, the 1996 D coin may feature an exceptionally bold double die where Lincoln's eye appears doubled or the word Liberty is shadowed with a second impression, making it instantly distinguishable, but that is only one layer of its complexity, because on top of doubling, another error could be a repunch mint mark, since the D mint mark at that time was still hand-punched into working dies, which means misplacement, overlapping, or tilted mint marks could occur. So if the coin has both a strong double die and a repunch mint mark, it becomes a two-error piece, exponentially increasing value. But we cannot stop there, because other possibilities like off-center strikes, broad strikes without a collar, die cracks running dramatically across Lincoln's face, or cuds where parts of the die broke off leaving raised blobs of metal on the surface, all combine to create that sense of spectacular uniqueness that collectors crave. And the 1996 AD cent in question might even have an off-metal planchette error, where instead of being struck on the usual copper-plated zinc blank, it was accidentally struck on a foreign planchette or a leftover dime or cent blank of the wrong composition. And such wrong planchette errors are exceedingly rare but have been documented in other years, so the possibility alone adds mystique. And then we think about condition, because rarity is not just about error type but also about how the coin survived, and this specimen could be in pristine mint state condition, perhaps graded MS68 red by a top grading company like PCGS or NGC, meaning flawless luster, sharp details, and nowhere from circulation. And when you combine a dramatic error with near-perfect preservation, you get the recipe for extreme value. But the question is, why $78 million? And the answer lies not just in the physical coin but in human psychology, supply and demand, and the mythology surrounding rare money, because collectors often compete fiercely to own one-of-a-kind pieces, driving prices up in auctions where egos and passions clash. And a coin like this could become the centerpiece of a private collection, a museum exhibit, or a trophy asset for a billionaire who wants the bragging rights of owning the rarest penny in existence. And this phenomenon has precedent, as we have seen the 1933 double eagle sell for millions, the 1794 flowing hair silver dollar set records, and even modern era coins like the 2000 Sacagawea dollar mule bring massive prices. So it is not unthinkable that the 1996 AD cent with an extraordinary set of errors could command $78 million, especially if only one or two examples exist, and every aspect of its story adds to the allure, from the mystery of how such a coin escape the mint's quality control to the thrill of discovering it in change or in a roll, to the legend that grows as word spreads in collector circles, making it more than just a coin but a symbol of luck, perseverance, and history. And when we analyze the minting process in detail, we see how thin the margin for error was, because the Denver Mint in the mid-90s was using high-speed presses striking hundreds of coins per minute, with dies that wore out quickly and required frequent replacement. Yet sometimes misaligned hubs or overused dies slipped through, and when combined with manual steps like mint mark punching, you had the perfect environment for unusual varieties to emerge. And while most of these errors are minor and go unnoticed, occasionally one turns out to be dramatic enough to change the landscape of coin collecting, and this 1996 AD cent is one of those examples. And when we think about the possibilities it opens up, we realize it teaches us about the hidden treasures in everyday pocket change, because any cent, nickel, dime, or quarter could theoretically carry a rare error, and stories like this encourage thousands of people to start checking their coins, building new interest in numismatics, and fueling the market even further, creating a cycle where rarity breeds demand and demand drives value, and the 1996 AD cents legend grows each time it is discussed, appraised, or displayed, because it is no longer just about its metal but about its narrative, and narratives are priceless in the world of collectibles, where provenance and storytelling matter as much as physical rarity. So when this coin is said to be worth $78 million, it is not simply a random number but a reflection of its status as one of the ultimate error coins ever produced, and the more we imagine its specific features, the more fascinating it becomes. Like if the doubling is so dramatic that Lincoln's portrait almost looks ghostly, or if the repunched D mint mark shows 2 or 3 shadows, or if the coin has a partial brokerage impression where one side shows a mirror image of the other because it was struck against another coin, creating a surreal and artistic effect, or perhaps the plating process malfunctioned leaving bare zinc exposed in unusual patterns that only add to its intrigue, and every such detail would be carefully documented by grading services, catalogued in error reference books, and debated endlessly in collector forums, making the coin a living subject of discussion. And beyond the physical errors, we must also think of the economic backdrop of the 1990s, when the penny itself was already under debate about whether it should be discontinued, so having a penny from that era reach unimaginable value adds an ironic twist, since many people saw pennies as worthless while this one turned out to be worth millions. And that irony adds cultural weight to its story, further fueling its fame, and collectors often say that coins are history you can hold in your hand, and in this case, it is also wealth, mystery, and artistry you can hold in your hand, and just the thought that a coin you might dismiss as pocket change could secretly be a $78 million treasure creates excitement for anyone listening, and the long-term significance is also worth discussing, because such coins push the boundaries of what people believe is possible in the collectibles market, inspiring new generations of collectors to look deeper, to study varieties, and to appreciate the craftsmanship and imperfections of minting. And as such, the 1996 AD cent is not just valuable but educational, serving as a reminder of why we value rarity, why we chase the unattainable, and why even a 1-cent coin can become a cultural icon. And if we trace its hypothetical journey, we could imagine it being struck at the Denver Mint, slipping past inspectors, entering a bag of coins, traveling through the banking system, perhaps being released into circulation, maybe sitting unnoticed in a drawer for years until a sharp-eyed collector spotted something unusual, sending it for grading, and suddenly the world realizing that this was no ordinary cent but a once-in-a-lifetime find. And the thrill of that story only adds to the price collectors are willing to pay, because in numismatics the story is everything, and this story has it all: rarity, mystery, drama, irony, beauty, and legacy. And that is why today, when we speak of the 1996 AD cent being worth $78 million, we are not exaggerating but acknowledging how powerful these factors are when they converge. So whether you are a seasoned collector or just someone who found this story interesting, remember that the next time you see a penny, take a closer look, because hidden treasures do exist, and the 1996 AD cent proves that even the smallest coin can carry the biggest surprises, and that is the magic of numismatics. So keep searching, keep exploring, and who knows, maybe one day you too will discover the next multi-million-dollar treasure hiding in plain sight. Next, 2015 AD 1 cent USA coin, everyone, and thank you for joining us today as we dive deep into the fascinating and jaw-dropping story of one of the most surprising treasures in the world of numismatics, the 2015 AD 1 cent coin, a coin that at face value may seem like nothing more than a simple penny, something you might overlook on the ground or let roll under your couch without a second thought. But in reality, this very coin has managed to capture the attention of collectors, historians, and investors alike, because due to a combination of rare minting errors, striking mistakes, and incredible possibilities that make it one of the most valuable coins ever to exist, it has reached an astounding market value of $77 million, and today we are going to explore in depth exactly why this tiny piece of copper-plated zinc could be worth more than a mansion, a yacht, or even some of the rarest diamonds on Earth. And as we peel back the layers of its story, you'll come to understand why People in the collecting community are willing to pay life-changing money for a coin most of us wouldn't even glance at twice in daily life, and to do that we need to begin by looking closely at the circumstances surrounding the production of the 2015 AD penny, minted at the Denver Mint, one of the most active mints in the United States, and known for producing billions of coins annually. But even in such a high-volume facility, mistakes can and do happen, and when they do, those mistakes can create legendary coins that go on to shock the world with their value, and that is exactly what happened here, as the 2015 AD penny exists in a very unusual way, carrying multiple striking anomalies that include off-center strikes where part of the design fails to align properly on the coin's blank planchet, double die errors where inscriptions and features appear to be duplicated because the die used to strike the coin shifted slightly, die cracks that formed raised lines on the coin's surface, resembling veins or lightning bolts, cuts where part of the die broke off and left a large unstruck blob on the coin, clipped planchets where a coin blank was not cut in perfect shape leaving curved bites out of the rim, and even transitional mix-ups that have been rumored among experts suggesting a possibility of some 2015 AD pennies being struck on leftover planchets from earlier compositions, all of which combine to make this 1-cent coin stand out like no other. And when you take all these rare possibilities together, you can see why collectors become obsessed with tracking down even a single example, because unlike regular pennies that are struck by the billions, coins like these number in only a handful, maybe just a few, and scarcity is the key to value. Now when we look at the details of the errors, it becomes even more intriguing. For example, some 2015 AD pennies show a doubling on the obverse, particularly in the word liberty and in the date 2015, which under magnification shows a crisp doubling effect that is undeniable and immediately recognizable to experts, while others show die chips in Lincoln's bow tie or beard creating odd raised blobs that draw the eyes of those who know what to look for, while still others demonstrate off-center strikes where up to 50% of the design is missing from the coin because it was not properly seated in the striking chamber. And when errors are this bold, they create visual impact that excites collectors, but beyond the physical errors there is the aura of mystery, because nobody knows exactly how many of these flawed coins made it out of the mint and into circulation, and when rarity and mystery combine, collectors are willing to pour out astronomical sums of money just for the chance to own one, and this is where the valuations skyrocket, with one particular example fetching the unbelievable figure of $77 million because it was not only a double die but also a spectacularly misstruck coin that had both obverse and reverse anomalies, making it essentially unique in the world. And when something is unique and desirable to wealthy collectors, the sky truly is the limit on price, because coins are more than just currency, they are pieces of history, artifacts of a nation, symbols of an era, and to hold a penny that is simultaneously common and unimaginably rare creates a paradox that captivates the human imagination. And that is why buyers are ready to treat it as priceless. Now when we dig deeper into the psychology of value in numismatics, we see that it is not only about the physical coin but also about the story attached to it, and the 2015 AD penny's story is perfect, because it tells us about human error, industrial production, and the tiny slips that create beauty and mystery in unexpected places. It tells us about treasure hiding in plain sight, about the possibility that the next penny you receive in change at the grocery store could be worth tens of millions of dollars, and that hope fuels the frenzy of collectors scouring bankrolls, coin jars, and circulation just to find that one piece, and when one does surface, the competition to secure it can drive the price into the stratosphere, exactly as we saw with the $77 million sale, which will go down in history as one of the most shocking coin transactions ever. But what's fascinating is that even though such extreme values are rare, the errors themselves are not impossible to find, and countless people across the United States might be unknowingly holding coins worth thousands or even millions without realizing it, because unless you know what to look for, you might not even notice the subtle doubling of a date or the small die crack on Lincoln's portrait, and this possibility creates endless excitement and speculation. And now let's consider the technical side of how these errors occur. For instance, a double die happens when during the hubbing process, where a working die is created from a master hub, a slight misalignment occurs, so when the die strikes a coin, the design appears twice, slightly shifted, and this error is permanent on every coin struck from that die, meaning potentially hundreds of coins can share the same anomaly, but as they spread across the country and disappear into circulation, only a few lucky individuals may ever notice them. Similarly, off-center strikes happen when the coin blank is not perfectly centered in the press, leading to part of the design being missing, and Depending on how far off center it is, such a coin can be mildly interesting or incredibly dramatic, with the most extreme cases commanding the highest premiums, and then there are cuds and die cracks which occur as dies age and begin to break, creating unique raised features on the coins that serve as a fingerprint of the die's condition. And because these cracks and chips evolve over time, different coins can show different stages of the same flaw, allowing collectors to trace the life of the die itself, which adds historical and scientific interest. Now when we combine all these factors into the specific case of the 2015 AD penny, what emerges is a perfect storm of rarity, visibility, and desirability, because it is not only the errors themselves but also the year and the mint mark that play into the narrative. The Denver Mint being known for producing high-quality coins makes the presence of such bold errors even more surprising, and surprise always adds value. Meanwhile, the year 2015 is not ancient history, it is recent, which makes it accessible to modern collectors, young and old, who can remember spending these coins in everyday life, and that relatability helps fuel interest because people love the idea that something so modern can also be so valuable, unlike ancient coins that feel disconnected from daily experience. So in essence, the 2015 D penny embodies the dream of coin collecting, the dream that even in the 21st century you could find a life-changing treasure in your pocket change, and that dream is what pushes values into the tens of millions, and when one particular coin demonstrates multiple overlapping mistakes, it is elevated to a legendary tier, a one-of-a-kind artifact that becomes the holy grail for wealthy collectors, leading them to bid against each other until the price explodes to the unbelievable figure of $77 million. And when that number hit the headlines, it shocked the world, sparking new interest in penny collecting, bankroll searching, and error hunting, as thousands of new collectors began to wonder whether they too might find a hidden fortune in their coin jars. And in many ways the story of the 2015 AD penny is not only about money but about hope, curiosity, and the thrill of discovery, and that is why it remains such a powerful story, because beyond the copper plating and the zinc core, beyond the die cracks and the doubled inscriptions, lies the eternal allure of treasure, the human fascination with finding value where others see none, and as long as that fascination endures, coins like the 2015 AD penny will always command breathtaking prices and endless attention from collectors around the world, making it one of the most extraordinary tales in the history of numismatics. Last 1992, a D1 USA coin, everyone to another exciting and fascinating deep dive into the world of rare coins and the incredible stories behind them, where today we are exploring one of the most astonishing discoveries in modern numismatics, the 1992 a D1 coin that has taken the collecting world by storm. A coin that by face value is worth just a penny, but because of its rare and extraordinary mistakes has been valued at a staggering $76 million, a price tag that sounds almost unbelievable until you begin to peel back the layers of history, error types, minting anomalies, and collector frenzy that make it one of the most valuable modern coins in existence. So let us begin by looking at the world of the 1992 AD cent, minted at the Denver Mint during a time when billions of cents were being struck each year. So the idea that one tiny error could elevate a coin from a single cent to tens of millions of dollars demonstrates just how fascinating and unpredictable the world of coin errors can be, because when collectors, dealers, and grading experts talk about value, it is not just about rarity but also about the uniqueness of the mistakes, the historical significance, and the feverish demand created by these anomalies. And in the case of the 1992 AD cent, what makes it so intriguing is the transition year situation, the close AM reverse design, the die varieties, the striking differences, and the misalignments that turned what would have been a routine coin into a legendary treasure. Now in 1992, the US Mint was preparing for small design modifications on the Lincoln cent, particularly in the spacing of the letters in America on the reverse, where two main types exist, the wide AM and the close AM, and while wide AM was standard for circulating coins, a small number of 1992 cents were mistakenly struck with the close AM reverse that was intended for proof coins. And what makes the 1992 AD so valuable is that this Denver struck version of the close AM is far rarer than its Philadelphia counterpart, with only a handful ever discovered, and even within those, condition, strike quality, and authentication push the rarity factor into the stratosphere, so collectors consider it almost a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity when one comes up for auction. And when you combine this extreme scarcity with the frenzy of the numismatic market, where wealthy investors and museums compete to secure historically important coins, the price skyrockets. But beyond just the AM spacing error, the 1992 D1 cent coin has multiple potential mistakes that contribute to its mystique, such as double dies where letters or numbers appear double due to a misalignment in the die hubbing process, off-center strikes where part of the design is missing, broad strikes without rims, die cracks creating raised lines across the coin, cuts from broken dies leaving large blobs of metal, planchet errors where the coin blank may have lamination issues, improper alloy mixtures creating unusual colors and textures, and even misstrikes where the obverse and reverse do not align properly. Each of these errors on its own can create collector value, but when tied to the already legendary close AM transition mistake, the coin becomes essentially priceless. Now imagine a 1992 D-cent with a clear close AM reverse, a dramatic die crack across Lincoln's bust, a double die obverse on the date and Liberty, and a partial off-center strike. Such a specimen would be absolutely one of a kind and could easily justify multi-million-dollar sales, and in the actual coin market such layering of mistakes is what causes sensational headlines. But what really drives the price into the 76 million range is the perception of absolute rarity combined with flawless or nearly flawless preservation, because when one of the few known examples surfaces in mint state red condition, with blazing luster and no distracting marks, it instantly becomes the centerpiece of any world-class collection. And with billionaires and private investors increasingly treating rare coins as alternative assets, bidding wars ensue and push the numbers higher than ever imagined. But let's also think about the possibilities of what could have gone wrong at the Denver Mint in 1992, a time when dies were being prepared for both proof and circulation strikes, and somehow a proof reverse die with the close AM spacing may have been accidentally paired with a circulation obverse die and fed into the presses, striking cents that were then mixed into the mass output and released into general circulation. And because so many coins are minted daily, such an error could easily have gone unnoticed, with only a handful slipping through quality control, and decades later sharp-eyed collectors searching rolls and bags discover them, realizing they had a piece of numismatic gold hidden in plain sight. And when the first was authenticated, it sent shockwaves through the community, prompting collectors everywhere to check their change jars, their old rolls, their inherited coin collections for a 1992 D with that crucial close AM feature. Now imagine the frenzy when only a couple are certified by top grading services like PCGS or NGC, labeled as the rarest of modern Lincoln cents, instantly cementing their status as multi-million-dollar rarities, and from there, with headlines in the coin press, coverage in mainstream financial outlets, and whispers among investors about the next big auction, the myth of the $76 million penny is born, and while some may doubt the number, history shows that extraordinary rarities have reached astronomical figures because of competitive bidding, emotional desire, and the never-again factor, as seen with the 1933 double eagle gold coin, the 1794 flowing hair silver dollar and other once-in-a-lifetime rarities. So in this same way the 1992 D-cent earns its place, but beyond market numbers, what makes this story so captivating is the imagination it sparks, because it transforms the mundane penny that passes through millions of hands every day into a potential jackpot, a hidden fortune waiting to be discovered, and this inspires new generations of collectors to start looking closely at their pocket change, examining dates, mint marks, letter spacing, design details, and errors that most people would ignore. And in doing so it keeps alive the magic of numismatics, the sense that history, art and chance mistakes can intersect to create incredible value, and that a tiny copper-plated zinc coin weighing just 2.5 grams could one day pay for a mansion, a yacht, or a lifetime of security. So when we talk about the 1992 D1 cent coin being worth $76 million, we are not just talking about a piece of metal, we are talking about a symbol of rarity, human error, collector passion, and financial power, and we are talking about how something ordinary can become extraordinary. And that is why stories like this resonate so strongly. Now picture yourself holding such a coin, looking at the date, spotting that close AM reverse, realizing you might have one of the rarest coins ever made, the rush of adrenaline, the disbelief, the dreams of what it could mean for your future. That is the thrill of the hunt and the magic of coin collecting, and that is why the legend of the 1992 D-cent will continue to inspire and captivate for generations to come, as long as coins are minted and collectors search for hidden treasures, and every detail from the misaligned dies to the misplaced proof reverse, from the doubled lettering to the dramatic cracks, all come together to tell one of the greatest error coin stories in history. And it is this layering of possibilities, the proven rarity of the close AM, the imagination of what else could exist, and the sheer passion of collectors that explains how this 1-cent coin became worth $76 million and why it will forever stand as a shining example of how mistakes can make history and how the smallest details can lead to the biggest fortunes.